Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Dirt Bikes and Drag Radials. Today we are doing a full Decal Works custom graphic set installation. We thought we'd make a little how-to video for anyone who's maybe considering trying this at home or has tried it and had a bad time doing it. So I'll give you a little rundown on how I install them. Obviously there are lots of different ways, but I'll show you how I do it. I brought some of Decal Works products in just because we're doing their graphic set. I've always kind of run their graphics. They're an awesome company to deal with. So we kind of brought the whole spread here and a couple other little products to try. We've got graphic guard protectors that they sent us. These are to go in this area down here. They guard the spot where your boots would normally rub through your nice new custom number plates. So we'll get started here. First we're gonna do clean and prep, and then I'll give a little instructional on how I like to place and install things and see what this thing looks like when it's done. Okay, so before we install graphics, we want to surface prep. Step one is adhesive removal. If you're reusing your plastics, that is where that'll come in to take all the gross sticky edge off. That also brings me to my first recommendation. Just buy new plastics. They're cheaper than the graphics most of the time. Buy new plastics. That being said, factory oils, things like that. So this is step two, removes grease, oils, anything like that. They say spray it on, let it soak for 30 seconds or so. This is key because even the best graphics will not stick to dirty plastic. We're up front because I like to start with a reasonably easy graphic. At least I think these ones are easy. I'm sure I'll get argument. Call it a confidence builder. We got a lot of tough ones to put on between the rad shrouds and the number plates on this one, so we will start here. I like to, in any sort of graphic that has more than one leaf, I like to isolate the area a little bit. Obviously, when you are doing this, you need clean hands, clean tools, clean scissors, and clean workspace. If you have to touch the adhesive area of the graphic, I try to use fingernail and always do it inboard of the outer edge. Don't put a fingerprint near the edge. That's where it's gonna lift. So, I left the middle papered on this one. I'm gonna try and place as best we can. Don't overthink it. And we wanna go center to center, even though that's not stuck. Then we want to work the decal on from the center out. Most importantly, get the graphic down without capturing any air bubbles. Most moto graphics do not breathe very well, and it's gonna take some time to get those out. Okay, so here's where different methods start to come into play. Obviously, the main two methods of doing this are the wet method versus the dry method. So far, you can see I do the dry method. After experience, most of the time you'll find it just saves time for the most part. We will try the wet method on, say, the airbox cover or something like that, just to show anybody who wants to see it. For me, when I do more complex ones like a rad shroud, I like to place them first and foremost, get an idea, look it over, see what the spacing looks like. For that, I tack them in place with painter's tape. Actually, Decal works. You guys put these little tacky things in here for packaging, and they're super handy. Okay, so we've got our general placement of where we want it. It's gonna line up with things like bolt holes. The other thing to remember with this is that no install is perfect. The person who installs it is the biggest critic, and most of the time you're gonna require some trimming and a little bit of shaping with a heat gun, things of that sort. So don't stress yourself out on absolute everything having to line up. Just make sure the graphic looks good on the plastic and that you can kind of get it even on both sides. So I've made it to here, fairly content with the placement up top. We probably need a little trim around that just so we don't get a lift from like the pressure washer or something. If you bring this up, you know, if your placement's a little off or whatever, you trim this, you make sure it's nice and stuck down. That way you don't get dirt under there in the future. This kit's gonna last. Okay, next I'm going to do the wet application method. For those of you that are more comfortable, if it's your first time, maybe it's not the worst idea. I will say the only thing that I dislike, or that the only reason I choose not to use the wet application method for the most part, other than time savings, is sometimes there's a lot of tough angles on motocross plastics, and it's hard to get, to know that you've squeegeed that product like fully and completely out of there. So it just kind of adds to your time and your set time and things like that. That being said, it does give you the option of moving the graphic around on the panel, which for comfort's sake is kind of nice for a lot of people. So I get that too. So this is the wet application method. I've got the Decal Works squeegee. I taped some paper towel around it just because softer touch, and it kind of dries up the fluid as it comes out. So we've got the decal to be installed. I pulled the backing off. We're going to spray evenly across the backing and the panel. Oh, it smells good. And we're gonna layer in place. And when you do that, you've got lots and lots of ability to move it around. And for that, you gotta kind of dig it. I think that's pretty good as far as spacing. So I'm gonna take the squeegee, the same thing from the center out. So the benefit of this is It's really hard to get an air bubble in. The downside to me is that when you get into smaller areas like this, you've got to really work to get all of that solution out and to get it to actually stick down the way you want it to. But again, different strokes for different folks. Okay, all of our stickers are installed. Next step is to kind of go around the perimeter and look for anywhere where you've got an overhang of any kind past the edge of the plastic. This one actually came out really good. Everything fit well. Decal Works is awesome. Any little places, the biggest ones I look at are around bolt holes. Say on the rad shroud here, I've trimmed this one just to keep the dirt from getting in and underneath and causing a lift there and everything. Good thing to note when you do this, only make one cut. Be careful, do it once, because if you do it again, there will be a line left in your plastic underneath that you'll see and you won't be able to unsee, so make your cut carefully one time. Once you're done trimming, I pull out a heat gun. You want to be careful with this thing. But basically anywhere that you've got, say, a turn around a corner, like right here when we installed, you've got a little bit of inclination to lift there, in here around the corners, little creases, stuff like this, you just want to heat them up just a little bit and seal that edge. Take the crease out of it. Nothing too crazy with the heat, still touching it with my thumb and everything. But basically, that allows it to kind of take shape. Once we've got all those worked out, I'll go over most of the bike and just kind of lightly heat around the edges, again, just in case there's any kind of little lift, any kind of anything. One thing to remember, if you have gotten any bubbles in the application process, it happens, don't keep pushing on them, don't poke them with pins, don't lift them out. Unless it's something massive, leave it. In time they will kind of bleed out, but if you push them around and you mess with them, that's just, like, it's just, you're gonna have a permanent kind of scar in the graphic. So we're gonna finish heating this thing up and we're done. Okay, well, that'll do it for our graphics install. Feel free to drop us a question or anything in the comments section. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.